Hello everybody, my name is Nicolette Deutsch and I'm an assistant professor at the Corvinus University at the department responsible for business development. So I really want to thank all the critics I've learned from the previous presentation. Thank you very much, because I'm the head of the program dealing with business development at our university. So my key conclusions are the same that you've mentioned, so we are in line, I think. Today I do not really want to share all of my slides and tell everything that I wanted to, because we have previous presentation with a concentrated topic and key statements, highlights dealing with the theoretical backgrounds of business development, entrepreneurship, innovation, the key challenges that universities and higher educational institutions have to face. And I do not want to repeat all the comments and supports regarding what's the future for higher educational institutions to become orchestrating participants in international networks regarding research or education on both of them, or the importance of third mission outreach and the importance of why we are here. I think that all we know that why we are here for, say, that entrepreneurship education is important for several reasons. For me, the most important thing is that if you check the literature, we can find that most of the authors state that there are huge differences between or among the type, the method, the concept behind entrepreneurship education with different regions. I mean that if you go to a university in the United States and start a course or a program dealing with entrepreneurship, it's quite different if you make the same thing in Central Europe, and really different when you try to make it in the Central Eastern parts of Europe, because they say that we tell different things. We are not able to focus on hot topics or new topics or quite interesting or sexy topics. We are just want to teach with theoretical terms, with all the principles, and we are do not really want to use this type of action learning methods, and we are not interested really in the competence-based education, which is the key for the future. So last year we had a program development process. Our goal was to renew our teaching method, the VO program, and thanks Erika and thanks Ilona for being the part of the development team. We had a really good team with different backgrounds, with different thoughts, concepts and competencies. We had a really good structured process, and we made several studies and analyses dealing with the literature themes, the statistics, I mean that the recruitment statistics. We investigated the Hungarian market and the key players. We also investigated the international market and the key players, or we make surveys regarding the feedbacks of current students, the previous students, the alumni. We also make interviews with the representatives of the potential employers, and we put some new statements on how to teach business development in our university. I really hope that if you make a new questionnaire in the future, you won't get the same results. I really hope it. So today I only want to show you the differences and the similarities between entrepreneurship, or for me, business development education in Hungary and in international terms, in order to highlight the similarities and the differences, try to define the best practices, and we use the methodology called content analysis. We analyzed several documents available for us, both in the Hungarian market and valid for the international ones as well. Sorry, I made some interesting statements. The first and most important thing, and I think that this is a serious problem for us, because in Hungary, according to the numbers, Corvinus University is the market player. Both statistics show that we are the market players regarding the recruitment and the first place applicants in this term. Why should we renew ourselves if we are the market players? Because we want to maintain our position and we want to develop ourselves. We want to make a experience for the students to be a university student. So to have experience, to have a life learning process. And this process was in the home office state from the coronavirus pandemic. So we really wanted to travel abroad. And in mind, we can travel abroad by comparing international education programs. And we have several universities. We check international market players according to the Financial Times ranking list and the HEIS accreditation. And we find 3 universities with 6 similar degree programs that we think that this is quite the same as we understand under the term that what business development is. You can say that entrepreneurship, innovation, entrepreneurship and innovation, knowledge-based entrepreneurship, most business, quite the same thing that we have already heard from the first presentation. We have several expressions for the same content. And we investigated the aims and the goals. For shortening my presentation, it is important to know that in Hungary, we have accredited programs. So we have the same goals when we teach entrepreneurship or business development in Budapest, in Debrecen, in other cities of the country. We have the same, we have to make the same thing. But when we check the international field, we can say that, okay, it's quite interesting. Entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship, for example, is important both for us, for the Hungarian universities as well, not just for the international ones. We have the same important thing that we want to develop the entrepreneurial attitude. We want to develop the mindset of the students, which is the same. We want to provide modern and relevant theoretical and methodological issues for the students, and this is the same. However, they focus on hot topics. They say that innovation is important, sustainability is important, social entrepreneurship is important. Please remember for it. When we check the competencies, the differences between the highlighted competencies of the master's degree programs, we can see that, okay, is quite the same, but this list is much broader. The focus, the importance of different skills and the teaching solutions and learning activities behind these skills is quite important. Regarding the content, I mean the structure of the educational programs, we can state that in the international field, several solutions can be found. I mean that if I want to learn entrepreneurship and innovation, I can choose between several types of structures, which is the highest fit with my current situation, with my background, with my interests. However, the key disciplines are the same. Entrepreneurship, innovation, strategic management, finance, accounting, marketing is the same in both sides of the EU. They focus on perspective-oriented courses. It's quite interesting. Design thinking is not a topic. It's not, I mean that it's not a principle. It's not a theoretical field. It's an applied thinking, a mindset developing solution. Creative thinking is not a theoretical course. Regarding the methodology, which is quite interesting, action learning methods are important. I agree with your results. And in the international field, project work consultancy project with companies with real projects working on real projects is quite important. Ideation, innovation, internship, shared courses with other universities in order to gain experience with different mindset, concepts, approaches is important. And this is where we lag behind, I think. This is where we lag behind. Because career paths and target groups are also the same. And if we want to develop this type of intended learning outcomes or key skills or competencies of the students, I think that we should make our degree structures to be able to support the development of these skills, and learning activities and methodologies should focus on the inclusion of corporate professorships, which is not a usual case in Hungary. We do not really know this term. And we have to increase the extracurricular learning opportunities for the students. So my most important conclusion, and I really want to finish my presentation, thank you very much, that further research is important, because we have to try to find out the ways how can we map the competence of the student, how can we say, as Professor Lasagne stated, that one of the students want to generate ideas. I'm really good in generating ideas. Other students are really good in finding money for your ideas. Other students are really good to make and build teams. And we have to develop teaching methods, we have to develop programs to support these students with modular teaching solutions and try to give the feeling that they want or they imagined when they started to learn business development, for example, in the case of Corvinus University of Budapest. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm ready for your questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
No, thank you. I can speak very loudly. So, thank you for the presentation. I was watching this in real life as well, this development process of the program, and I really love the results. You spoke mostly about what happens in the classrooms. Well, of course, in an international benchmarking setting. But if you had a wish, what would you wish the university would do outside the classrooms to support your in-classroom activities?
So the extracurricular activities. I think that we are we have several initiatives in the university, focusing with small elements, and we are not able to gather all these elements together and make that, okay, we are the department responsible for business development, we are focusing on entrepreneurship, we provide you mentoring programs and trainings developed for your skills, and maybe you are not a university student at this program, but we provide you the opportunity to become a team member, for example, who wants to develop or establish a startup. So I think that we should gather all these elements together, make a real thing at the university, focusing on innovation, and understand that entrepreneurship innovation is a process, not a minute in my life, a process. So, and I think that when we can build these connections, I mean that the Hungarian Startup University program or the other things that provided by the government institute responsible for business development, or innovation, research and innovation, we can make these things. So I think that the training, the mentoring, the coaching part is really missing, and it can be an extracurricular activity.
I have.
No, thank you. I have just a mention that I'm from the University of Debrecen, and there is the Team Academy, and I don't know whether you have ever heard about that, but in the Team Academy, those students who are elected to work through these kind of teaching methods, they need to establish a company, an own company, and they learn through their startups all the subjects. So I think this is a really unique method in Hungary. And
in the BG, they do the same. So this is the learning by doing thing that they want to try or implement in the,
This was partly killed through the pandemic because it wasn't an option to teach them one by one. But now we need to restart it, and it was really successful before.
Really good news.
No, thanks. I also have a strong voice. What do you think about students enrolled in other sciences and who have also entrepreneurial ambitions? How can they be involved in the education?
The education or the extracurricular activities?
Both.
Our master's degree program is open for students with different background regarding their BAs. I mean that a lot of students come from the BMA to learn something at the Corvinus University, at the department responsible for business development. So I think that regarding this teaching, it's okay, it's fine. We are ready for students with different backgrounds. For the extracurricular solution, it's quite interesting because Corvinus University is focused on economists, so with different backgrounds, I do not really understand that how can we make these options for engineering students. So do you mean that these students...
Also for life sciences, they have pretty good ideas. They have to put together a company with an economist.
This is quite true, but I only want to say that we have to make partnership with different universities because in our university most of the students are focusing on business terms. I mean that this is quite different if you are learning the Corvinus, at the BMA and you want to be an engineer and you have several ideas and how can you and why should you go to the Corvinus University, because we have the same, or they have the institutional background for this. Or maybe I misunderstood your question.
One last comment before we move on.
It depends on the partnership.
Yes, for example, at the University of Debrecen, it's not only for economists, but there are a lot of departments. And for example, we have elective courses, entrepreneurial courses for doctors and chemists and whatever. So I think this is also an important role of the education, and for example, even for venture capital, involving potentials. This is very important.
Yeah, you are right. You are right. It's easier there.
Yes, of course.
With different faculties.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome everyone here in this conference, dear colleagues and guests. My name is Peter Halmosi. We put together this research with Erika Jáki and Aranyossy from Corvinus University and Patricia Becsky-Nagy from University of Debrecen. Let me start by saying that higher education has been facing extreme challenges in the past decades, just to mention digitalization, COVID-19, pandemia, and Industry 4.0. Okay. In this changing world, universities are under constant pressure to decide the new role of the university shall follow in order to foster entrepreneurship. We apply new softwares, new applications every day, but are we really getting more practice-oriented even under the pandemic? So it's a pretty good question. To analyze this complex situation, we first of all conducted a focus group analysis with my colleagues. We set up a questionnaire and made interviews with 36 university teachers. So let me present our main findings of this research. On this slide you can see the admission statistics of the Hungarian master programs in business development. You can see that it only goes for the full-time programs, since the English programs are really niche markets, only offered by a few institutions, and the part-time programs are actually different in terms of educational methods and also in additional services offered to students. We focus on the courses courses of Corvinus University, University of Debrecen, and University of Szeged. As you can see, we've covered about 80 to 90% of all students affected in these courses. Let me first say some word about the effect of digitalization on this research. We put together a list of 12 new notions, new phenomena, trends in this questionnaire. We've discovered that these trends are present in the education in all investigated universities. The most relevant, the most popular were artificial intelligence, crowdfunding, digitalization, and supply chain. So actually, these phenomena are present in general at institutional level, but certain universities place more emphasis on these topics. We've also discovered that universities are committed to interdisciplinarity in this education. The Corvinus University and University of Szeged place emphasis on the IT and entrepreneurship, while University of Debrecen is focused on IT and agriculture. This is due to the former interinstitutional collaboration with another faculty. It has an impact on the education. We were also interested in the development of new skills that digitalization offers us every day. The most relevant, most important new skill offered by Corvinus and Szeged University was data visualization. So these appear in several courses, while it is data science in the case of University of Debrecen, as due to the aforementioned interinstitutional collaboration. On this slide you can see the most important platforms universities and teachers preferred during the pandemic. Microsoft Teams was the most popular, I think, but every university has its own preferred platform, like the WebEx for University of Debrecen, or the Big Blue Button and CoSpace in the case of University of Szeged. These platforms were not only used for teaching, they were also used for examination. Actually, during the pandemic, all universities had performed their online education successfully, and it's interesting that the hybrid life education actually was only typical during the COVID-19 pandemic. After that, it lost significance, except for University of Debrecen, because this was the only university who invested in special equipments in order to maintain this hybrid online education. Tests were also performed online, as you can see. Actually, so the most important improvement was actually achieved in the digitalization of curriculums. And actually, the online education became very widespread during the investigated time. Our research also explored the different forms of practice-oriented and experimental education. We found most of these practice-oriented and experimental education methods. We divided them into 4 groups: learning from hand-on practitioners, solving real business problems, solving stimulated business issues, and involving students into the research projects. We found 5 different forms of how a student can learn from a hand-on practitioner. The most popular answer was that the lecturer is also personally a hands-on practitioner. It was accompanied by the answer when the company manager was a guest lecturer, or students could meet with hands-on practitioner entrepreneurs. Actually, the involving other university lecturers with practical experience, or managing a factory or site visit during the pandemic was not so popular. In case of solving the real business problem, most answers came from small case studies and real data analysis. So colleagues managed and gathered and worked these data. Project tasks and collaboration with business partners were less significant. However, all universities offered such programs. On these bottom slides, you can see that starting a business or a business simulation exercise were also encountered in the program, and we were happy to see that students had the opportunity to be involved in academic surveys or institutional surveys of enterprises. Sorry. Okay, sorry, so it's on one side, not 2 slides. The key role of the universities is as education, but we also looked at other possible roles universities can play. So we discovered that elective subjects are offered at most universities, like business development in practice at University of Szeged, or design thinking at the case of Corvinus University. Students can meet entrepreneurial role models in most universities, and we've also discovered that the university culture is promoting the value of innovation. Mentoring and extracurricular workshops were also very popular. However, students can participate on pitch competitions. However, the deterrence of access to financing and funding is still a problem at most universities. Let me turn to the final and I guess most important implication of our current research. We've discovered shift in priority between training and the exam periods. It means that there's a new kind of collaboration starting between professors and students, and actually there's more space, more time to synthesize knowledge and rely on newly established curriculums. Actually, we've discovered that this ongoing transformation is much more than simply using new softwares. Later on, we would like to extend our research by questioning of students and compare and validate the results. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Any questions?
Sorry. You mentioned that during the pandemic we used different digital technologies to hold the presentations and make the courses or seminars available for the students. But what about the effectiveness and the efficiency of these solutions? I mean that we have classes with black boxes without seeing the students. I wasn't able to see the eyes of the students. It was really hard to find out that should I repeat the last sentence again or not? So this part of the investigation is quite interesting, that, okay, let's use the digital solutions, but what about the results? And if we use digital technologies for teaching and use digital technologies for testing, for example, the Moodle, where the students make small groups and make the exams together, we all know it, but we do not want to know it. So how can we make the reaction for this part?
Let me answer by twofold. First, I asked my students what do they think about the effectiveness of education during the pandemic. One of the girls said, Mr. Teacher, I was able to learn cooking during your course. So actually, she was present, rather in the kitchen, not in the classroom, where I was actually giving the presentation, even if I developed new curriculums, new presentations. That's one fold. Twofold, we will extend our research and evaluate more deeply as we get. So we have already the answers from teachers on the one side. We have to make it from the other side, compare it, and I'm sure we'll be very critical with the final conclusions.
Thank you very much, because it's quite important. I think that we always hear that, okay, let's use the IT and the digital technologies for the education. However, I think that
the most important answer is actually on this slide. Well, some of my management colleagues says that they shifted the emphasis from the training and the exam periods. Actually, they said we don't care about the exam periods. We give twice as much work for students during the training periods. You have to study from day to day, from week to week. Previously, what I have taught to students, you will get in advance. It will be the basis, and we'll get something extra during the present. If you do not do this, you will not get the good mark. So actually, one of my colleagues said that actually this situation during the pandemic was important for us. Now we have to decide what and how to expertise, how to commence with these lots of knowledge. We shouldn't lose this experience. We have to put everything back now into education to be more effective.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I think linked to that, it's not only important to ask the students about their opinion, but also find a different point of observing whether we've achieved the learning objectives, right? I mean, one thing which we don't like and which I think is one-dimensional would be to look at founding rates. If they decrease because of worse entrepreneurship education or something like that. But what we really want to do is make people more entrepreneurial. So it could also be corporate entrepreneurship or engagement in NGOs, whatever. But have another point of observation rather than their self-report about whether I like the course or not. And I think if you have a very good survey there, or if you have maybe look at entrepreneurial intention scales or something like that, it will be even more representative and help us to actually deal and design future courses.
Hopefully you haven't seen too much from that, because there will be some warm-up, and I know the time is very limited, but I think after just a coffee break, I was really expecting to be the first one after the break, so just have something. And as you can see, the presentation is done with one of my colleagues, with my boss at Eastern University, Eleanor Vetrino, and yeah, she says also like hello to you, and but I will be now today the voice of her as well at this stage. So when we speak about entrepreneurship education, maybe there are a lot of questions, and we not see something from the weed. So I have some question for you, just to start to concentrate on the topic. And we have one challenge. How, because now it seems not to be correct, like this equation. When you can draw only one single line, how can you do this for a true statement, for a true equation? Because now it's not true. So it's with Roman or Latin letters, so like numbers, so like 6 is not equal with 9. So how could you make it for true? Okay, I will show you the usual solution. The usual solution is that they are not equal. So if you can draw only one line, it's only that. Okay, this is entrepreneurship education when we speak about from the past and maybe in the present. Okay, other solution, please. Okay. So maybe the coffee doesn't have any effect now, but maybe in the next one. So one a bit more innovative solution. One single line, and then 6 will be equal with 6. Okay, maybe another one. I have only 2, but if you can make more, then it will be fine.
I can tell you that's the title of the Jimi Hendrix song, If 6 Was 9.
Oh, that would be also 9. That would be also good. So next time I will add the other one. But it's a really creative one. And I think if we just speak about entrepreneurship and we want to combine with art education, that would be also nice. But there is another solution. 1 times 6. It's also a solution for that. And I just brought it here because I think if we speak about entrepreneurship education, generally, we usually, what was also in the previous panel that I participated, sometimes we need to figure out the things that we already have in a very different way, or we need to figure out really, really different things that we haven't used at all. And yeah, sometimes, somewhere, they made also some kind of other ideas, and here you see the results of it. It was somewhere in Finland, as you could see, and I think when you just see these numbers, they are already more than 40 years old, coming from a Finnish city called Jyväskylä, and if you see the facts, I think they are really impressive. So 91% of the students works in 6 months after graduation. 37% of the students runs their own company in 6 months after the graduation. In 2 years, it grows for close to the half of the graduated students. The turnover was more than 1.5 million euro, and project had 10% of the project has more than 10,000 euro as a turnover. And what you don't see that, and this is really, really important fact in Finland, that they paid more than 400,000 euro in the form of tax to the favor of the society. So a lot of things, and the case is that, okay, what is that? How could they reach it with an entrepreneurship education? And the education, it's called Team Academy. And I really don't want to spend too much time because the aspect now would be only one very small point of it. But so that's why I just move it in very fast. It's a kind of old education form now because it has started 28 years ago in Jyväskylä in Finland, and then 24 years ago in Tampere as well, also in Finland with another name. It's called Pro Academia, and they changed everything. So they said, okay, higher education students are not students anymore. They shape companies, so they will be team entrepreneurs. They will work together. This was also, I think, one of the most important message from the morning, one of the morning sessions, that we don't deal with individuals. We should deal with the teams of students. We don't have classrooms. We have open space offices. There is no teaching. The focus is on learning. There are no teachers, so my position at Aston University is team coach. And I don't have classes, I have coaching sessions. And there are no exams, there are dialogue sessions, and of course there are some kind of portfolios as well. There is self-organization instead of control, and there are real business projects instead of simulation and case studies. Of course, and I must add this, it's not for everyone. So it's for kind of students who are really passionate, who are engaged, who are enthusiastic, and I think that was also kind of important message from the morning ones. But this is Team Academy, totally different way. And only one memory from my first meeting with the Team Academy. I was totally shocked. I haven't understood anything, and I was totally shocked. That was in Jyväskylä 13 years ago, and I just said, okay, what could young people achieve? That was like an intense week, and what could they achieve in 1 week? So, and yeah, that was also like a love for the first sight for me with this one. We made several research on this one, and that's why I just wanted to focus on the key factors of the implementation, because the question in the title of this presentation and also of the article would be that if it's really successful in Finland, can it be, and how can it be successful in other countries? Because we see that there are a lot of differences, and we just made 4 different types of the factors, and I don't want to go deeply into this one, but we just figure out that there is a very important institutional or administrative factor. There is an infrastructural factor because it's totally different. So I started here in Hungary at Budapest Business School 10 years ago as head coach of that program, and the first thing was that, okay, how can we achieve that students can come into a university building without any teacher to 0 to 25, 24. So like anytime when they want, because it's like a workplace. So that was really interesting. Then there are, of course, educational factors, and I just wanted to say that this double measure, because if you say, 10 minutes, okay, good. If you say that, okay, no exams, no lectures, no teachers, so like it's totally fancy, but if you figure out that, okay, beside of your studies, which is like a self-organized way to study, you need to run together with 14 other, let's say, different people, your own company as well. It's really, really hard. So that one. And the last one is the ecosystem, because when we started to do the research a couple of years ago with other colleagues, we haven't focused on this one. So I just brought it to you, 3 different model of it. And the first one is, which I called, or not me, it was Jose Maria Luzarraga from Spain. He just called it the Lasagne model of entrepreneurship. It was like a physical environment in Tampere, in the old Finlayson factory. There were 3 layers, 3 levels, 3 floors in an old factory building. And on the second floor, there was the Demola, which is this project-based learning environment that was also in the morning. Then on the second level, there was the Pro Academia, when you can make such kind of team academy education in 3 years. And if you are ready, you can go to the 4th floor, which is like a co-working space. So really, you can follow your way. This was in Tampere. We just called the next one, which is an institutional model of the surrounding and the ecosystem. It comes from my experiences in Bremerhaven, Germany, where the team academy is called Gründung, Innovation, Führung. And what we just discovered, that all the supporters somehow were related to the government or the local government. So that's why we just mentioned this is like kind of institutional model, and also it's like quite long processes. How can you achieve? And the last one is the organizational ecosystem model, which we just described the model that we have in Birmingham at Aston, or surrounded at the Aston University. Whether it's quite funny now after the Brexit, because BASIN is a European finance project, one of the last ones, There is also a unit of the university. This is as an enterprise, and there is an as an enterprise entrepreneurs club, which is an organized society now from the alumni. So this is quite interesting how different it could help. But we just discovered, and I think that could be the message, that without the ecosystem, you cannot be successful when you run like this kind of entrepreneurship education. Yeah, so these are we just to see also that she's my lovely boss, and I'm very happy if you have any questions, and I try to answer that.
Thank you, Pete. So questions?
Okay, now I can see that is also. So I just interpret it in a positive way, which means that you are also shocked in a positive way if you haven't known about Team Academy, as I was shocked in Finland.
Yeah, that's true. So, what do you think? How we can use this for Eastern countries? Because it's
actually quite interesting, because I haven't mentioned, but now there was one point. There is an international network of team academies, and there were 2 team academies in Hungary. One is still existing, so my colleague or previous colleague is there, and now there is a really prosperous one in Prague, in the Czech Republic. But I would say they really just copied the Finnish version. And of course, one of the main issues in the background is that how enthusiastic the university itself is, because in Prague, what I just feel that they don't have any budget limitation, so they can spend as much money as they want. There is another in Central Europe, which is in Bucharest, in Romania, but there is a private university. All others, except of Netherlands and Spain, they are public universities. Mm-hmm. Quite interesting, quite challenging, but generally I would say really good chance.
Is it license based or no? Basically, you can just.
The only expectation to call an environment for Team Academy has been that you need to be an educated team coach. And usually the program is called Team Mastery, and you need to make it at a Finnish company, which is like now it's called Team Academy Global, and then you can call it. There are different ones. This is the educational part, how different the solutions could be, because for example at Budapest Business School it was only a specialization within a bachelor program. In the UK it is a whole bachelor program.
Okay.
So different ones.
I guess you need some kind of accreditation for this kind of program. If
it's a whole bachelor program, yes. If it's like kind of specialization, it's mainly the decision of the university.
But if you're going for the bachelor program, basically, so is it easy to get the accreditation? I'm not sure that it's going to be easy in Serbia.
It's only the national accreditation.
Yeah, it's national. Yeah, I know.
It's a national accreditation.
That worries me.
Yeah, actually, there was also kind of question marks in us when we started the process here in Hungary, and that was also okay. Can we make an accreditation, or how long would it take? And that's why we just decided to make it a specialization. Okay. It's quite challenging because we run it for 1.5 years only, and somehow my feeling is that it's too short. Maybe 3 years are too long. There are also solutions when they just combine with like a traditional bachelor in business and management or business administration, and then the first year is together with the other students, and then the next 2 or 2.5 in Finland, they are separated and running the Team Academy.
Okay, great, thank you. Questions from the audience? Yes?
Does this involve putting students in incubators, accelerators? Is this integrated into this program?
No, generally not. But for example, and that was the example of Aston in Birmingham, there are other units in the city or other organizations in the city which can offer that, and we work together with them.
So the emphasis then is more on, actually teaching entrepreneurship in the university or coaching.
I would say the focus is on learning entrepreneurship or discover entrepreneurship.
Right, but this doesn't actually entail them setting up a business. Can they do that if they want to?
Yeah, they can do what they want to. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And the program would facilitate that, right?
Yeah.
And would that include finance as well for starting a business?
No, but for example, one team in Bristol a couple of years ago, they just created a company. The name was CrowdReach, and they started to deliver crowdfunding services for the other companies.
Okay.
So they could collect the finance as well. But for example, the other units like Basin and Aston Enterprise in Birmingham, they offer also pre-seed and seed funding for the companies.
Okay.
Yes, Paul. We have one more question.
Yeah, it was not 100% clear. Was the collaboration between Demola and Team Academy?
Actually, it was just a physical example that they were in the same building, and the way was that, and there was also like the fourth one, that the Finnish secondary education is also project-based, and they have also like innovative solutions. So people just coming there, and if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, you can still try yourself in such kind of environment, like such, for example, Demola, when you work with other people on real company projects. If you like it, and if you say that, hey, it was good for me, then I want to continue, maybe you can apply for a pro academia and make your whole bachelor. But if you don't like it, that was your experience and that was it. But they work together, so like there was also like kind of common events and so on with them.